Hey mamas, Sami here with a quick tip. Did you know that when you write down your to-dos on paper, you're 35% more likely to remember them than if you type them in your phone? It's proven your brain uses both sight and writing, so the information sticks longer. And that's exactly why our One Thrive wall organizers are total game changers. You see your week, you write your goals, you remember more. You do more, you stress less. So what are you waiting for? Pick the organizer that fits your lifestyle. We've got so many cute and functional options. Keep thriving, mama. Your week just got easier.
But how do you help women recognize the early warning signs before it becomes too overwhelming? You know, what tips and tricks do you have, Miss Diane?
Well, one of the things we say, which the morning is fine, I actually have my clients do it at night, writing out your to-do list. And this is the only reason why. And you can pick and choose what works for you as a parent, doesn't matter. But at night, for a lot of people, they'll ruminate and it'll sit there. Or if they wake up in the middle of the night, it starts ruminating. You start thinking about what you have to do, what time is it, what if I don't get it done? And for a lot of people, they can't fall asleep due to it, and it keeps them awake. So if that's the case, then write your to-do list out the night before. So you're releasing it, like you said, and it doesn't sit and ruminate. So that could be part of your night routine. And that's really important. And again, routines are so important. So thinking about this as we talk about this, do you have a good morning routine and a good evening routine? Now, burnout, what it could feel like is different for everybody. But for most people, and I just had a client go through this about a month ago as a mom, and she, I knew she was getting towards burnout. We talked about it because she was constantly stressed. She was having problems sleeping. She was emotionally eating, which we do when we're really stressed. She was holding everything in. She never really was talking to her husband about it because she just said she didn't have enough time and he was so busy and didn't want to burden him. So she was holding it in. And she wasn't feeling good. She was losing interest in the things she loves to do. She was always exhausted, and not just physical exhaustion, mentally exhausted. And those are some typical signs of burnout. But when you have routines, that can kind of be preventative. So you want to think about, again, do I have a morning and an evening routine? Some people do want a lunchtime routine. That's up to you. That's too much for me, but whatever works. But the morning and evening are really important. And it should include some mindfulness, because mindfulness is the only natural way to de-stress. And there's different ways to do it, and you can pick and choose what works, and it does not have to be 15-minute long. It can be very, very simple. But each person has their own. Like I said, at nighttime, one of the biggest ones I have my clients do is write out their to-do list. The other thing I have them do, because one, it does a few things. So I have them do gratitude at night. Now, gratitude is a positive psychology tool. It's what we call one of the happiness habits. So gratitude is really important. And why gratitude is like a superpower is because it cultivates happiness, but it also cultivates mindfulness. So you get a 2-for-1. So every night what I have my clients do, and again, you could do it however, you could write it in a journal, you could say it out loud, you could say it in your head, whatever works, but I have them say, what are 2 to 3 things I am grateful for that happened today? Now, why I have them do it at night is usually right before you go to bed, right? You say goodnight to everybody, shut the kids' lights off, you're laying in bed, and what happens? You're not preoccupied anymore, so the rumination starts. And you start thinking about your day, what happened, what didn't go well, what you have to do tomorrow, and you start stressing out. And whatever you're thinking about 20 to 30 minutes before bed affects if you sleep, how you dream. So by doing gratitude, you're getting mindfulness, which helps you sleep, and you're getting positivity. So just looking through your day for the little gifts, blessings, and miracles. And we mean little. It could just be that you made it into the building before the rain hit your hair and it didn't ruin it. It could be that for some reason you stopped at coffee and it was the best cup of coffee you ever had. It could be that you got a great parking spot. Never happens. Whatever it is, doesn't have to be anything big. But what it also does, if you do it at night and you're looking through your day for the little gifts, blessing, and miracles, you start rewiring your brain to notice the good instead of the bad. So doing it consistently for months on end, and it's a very quick habit. It'll take you, all right, on a good day, it'll take you a minute. On a crappy day, when you really got to search for 1 or 2 things, it might take you 5 minutes, maybe. But it's not changing your schedule. It's not changing anything about your day. It's not costing you more money. You could do it while you're sitting in bed just thinking about it or writing it down. Some parents will also do it around the dinner table, where they'll make each child just say, what is one thing they are grateful for that happened today? The other question I have them do as part of their night routine is the next question. Again, you can write it, say it out loud, say it in your head, however you want to. Just say, what are 2 things I did well today? Now, that's different than gratitude. I'm grateful I didn't hit traffic. I didn't get rained on. Great parking. I didn't have any control over it. It just happened, and I'm appreciating it, and I'm thankful. What I did well are the things I did. And maybe I chose water instead of caffeinated beverage. Maybe I switched from, not like an artificial sugar to putting in lemon or something else. Whatever I did, those are the things I did well, where I put the effort in, the hard work, and that gives me accomplishment and pride. So by doing that at night, you're getting gratitude, mindfulness, accomplishment, and pride, and rewiring your brain to notice the good instead of the bad. And after about 30 days, 45 days, depending of consistency, most of my clients said, the miracle happened. It took me like 5 minutes to do all of that, if that. And I'm starting to like rewire my brain. Like I'm noticing the good. Like I'll be like, wow, that happened and that sucked. But, kind of like how you said, well, COVID, but thank you, COVID. Because of COVID, you were able to work from home. Not that we want to go through a pandemic again, but you're able to see the silver lining. And that's important. Or you're able to notice something is temporary. That, yes, it feels crappy now, but I won't feel like this next week or next month. And that's really important. So if you can do those 2 tools at night, again, if you'd rather do it in the morning, that's fine. And then writing out your to-do list, that gives you a great evening routine. And in the morning, just doing something simple. I work out in the morning, so that's my whole morning. Other people like to journal write, and you could just do a free write where you're just writing out whatever is on your mind to release it. And you can hold that journal to use it as self-reflection, see patterns, see how far you've come. Or if you want, I have a client that loves to rip it up, like she's ripping up the negativity. And when she was working from home, she put it through her paper shredder. Like, I'm done. I don't need this anymore. However you want. Prayer is a form of mindfulness. So you could do prayer. It doesn't matter what religion or how, or it's spirituality, whatever you want. That works. You could take some time to just do 2 to 3 minutes of deep breathing. We just close your eyes, you take a deep breath in through your nose, hold, exhale through your mouth. Do that for a minute or 2 if that works better. You could do grounding, where you just walk outside with your cup of coffee and just feel the grass on your feet until it gets cold out. Not Florida, but for the rest of us on the East Coast, we know our time's limited where we can walk outside with bare feet. Or you could just do a grounding where you sit outside with your morning coffee and just notice what's around you using your senses. What do you see? What do you hear? You see the clouds and how they're formed. You see the colors of the leaves. You hear the birds and the bees. You smell your coffee, whatever it is. And that, again, can be 2 to 3 minutes. If you have more time, you can do a meditation, 5-10 minutes. But there's so many different ways. Prayer is 1 or 2 minutes. So it's what works for you, but what's in your emotional toolbox. And those are just some tools. But you can pick and choose what works for you and pull them out as you go. You don't have to do the same thing every day or for the same amount of time to get that reboot, refresh kind of pause in your day.
I love that. I think that we all need that pause, right? We need that moment of gratitude. We need to take the time to take a breath, whatever that looks like for you. Sometimes, I posted on TikTok that I was sitting outside. I built a bench, like a bench swing that I bought from Costco. Thanks, Costco. It's adorable. I love it. But I did it myself with my cousin. And I was very proud of us because normally that's like something I'll like either have my husband do because it just stresses me out to do it with him. Or I'm like, there's couples that can do things together. And there are like building things. And there are couples that know they can't do that together. It is not a good thing for their marriage. We fall in that category. So me and my cousin did it. We were like, so women empowerment, we did it. And so the other day, my moment of mindfulness and my moment of reflection and gratitude was my kids were playing in the playroom themselves without me, my 6 and 4-year-olds. I have boy, girl. So my son is 6, my daughter is 4. And they couldn't be more opposite in everything that they like. But, they're still siblings. And so I snuck out and sat on my new rocking bench outside and I filmed myself and I was like, you heard it here first. Hide from your children because then they like each other. That's what happened. And that was my moment of gratitude, mindfulness, all in one. I was sitting outside having a Diet Coke,
You did have it well.
watching nothing, leaving my children to themselves, because that was when they got along and they played very well together and they make memories together. And I was by myself. It was my moment of, uh-huh.
Yeah.
And I acknowledged it, and I had to put it out there for other people to understand also, because I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't think this makes me a bad mom. It actually, reinvigorates myself. I get my moment in my oasis of my backyard by myself, taking a little break from everything. And my kids were playing together and having the best time. So I thought you would appreciate my moment of mindfulness.
I think it's a win-win, right? Everybody was happy. I've had parents who've had to, we've suggested like take a time out, long if you know they're safe in the house. And if you need to sit in the bathroom, just tell them you go to the bathroom. And even if you're just sitting there on the floor, deep breathing for 2 to 3 minutes or 5 minutes, depending on their age and they're safe, that's fine. We all need to have little breaks during our day, and they don't have to be huge. So it could be even at work. I have clients at work when they're at work, and I'll just tell them, sit in their cubicle, their office, close your eyes, and just count backwards very slowly from 50 down. And usually by 30 or 25 seconds, they zone out. And they'll wake up 2 to 3 minutes later. They'll hear a noise, the phone rings, the computer's on. But it's enough to just reboot yourself. It could just be a change of scenery, getting up from your office, especially if you work from home. And you just go into the other room. Or if you're at your office, get up and go get water, just to change your scenery. Or stretching, getting up and stretching, especially if you're in front of a computer. It's another form of mindfulness. It reduces the tension out of your body. So we have to get rid of that myth that it's got to be, I have to sit here for 15 minutes and be like, or take a full yoga class. I don't even like yoga. I can't do it. It just bores me. It's not for me. Like, I need to move when I exercise, but I can meditate. Like, everybody has what works for them. So, but sitting on a bench, doing things like that, or like even just sitting outside with your cup of coffee and tea and just tasting it and smelling it, or putting your hands around the mug and feeling the heat, just things like that, using your senses is just a grounding mindfulness moment. So don't think big, think small, little micro steps. And it'll help. If you do a few of those during the day, you will notice a
For
difference.
sure. No, I love that. And it's so interesting to me because I feel like, these skills and these things, I feel like, they weren't ever moments that were taught to us, right? Like, it was kind of like exercise is good for you because it helps your brain and your body and things like that. And that's kind of why I always went into exercising or something. But really, for me, it's so much more than that. Like, it really is taking time for myself,
Wow.
right? And that's why I enjoy exercising. And like,
Oh, it's
exactly,
mental
it's
health
for
for
sure
sure.
mental health, but I think that there's generational differences there too, where, like we as in I'm in the millennial generation, and we learned about working out. I mean, at least for me, I wasn't a sports girly. I was a dancer. I was a performer. Clearly, everyone who watches me is very, very shocked by the fact that I was a performer. But um, I did theater. I did singing. I did dance. I did cheerleading. I did those types of things. And so I got my activity, but exercise was just never a priority. Like, it wasn't something that I had to think about. And it wasn't until college, when I wasn't doing all of the things that I had done my whole life up until that point, that I was like, oh, like, people go to the gym to do these things. Like, it just wasn't something I ever thought about, right? Because I was always in dance class or gymnastics or horseback riding or ice skating. I mean, you name, I did all of the Northeastern sports that aren't like traditional sports. I'll put it that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't a team sport kind of chick, but ooh, I'll just smack my One Thrive over here. But so it's interesting now, like, looking back on all of that experience and kind of what my kids are seeing with what I'm doing and the generational shift. Talk to me a little bit about the shifts in general and kind of the generational changes that you see in your line of work, right? And also kind of how it's changed so much and progressed with everything that is digital, right? So, one of those things that we always talk, I find that I talk with a lot of my guests about is, parenting in the digital age, but also, self-care in the digital age, and taking digital breaks and doing things that offline and not feeling the need to post all the time and all of those things, like talk to me a little bit about positive psychology and positive parenting and kind of the opportunities that there are with the digital age and kind of the hindrances of the digital age, right? Talk to me a little bit about your perspective on that.
So, I wasn't raised, I'm Gen Xer, so, I didn't have a computer until my 20s, like at home. I still had to take typewriting class. I know that's embarrassing to admit. Actually, we had word processors. I was past the typewriter, but I was not yet a computer. But what we know now is, and it's so funny, we make fun of this in my family. My husband is on his phone more than my daughter. And I've said that to him since she was young. And back then it was just your flip phone or your keyboard phone, the BlackBerry, stuff like that. And I'm like, you're teaching her that this is okay. You have to get off. So again, with the positive parenting and looking at your actions, if you don't want your kids to be on the computer all the time, get off it yourself. And when you're helping them with homework, don't multitask. Don't sit on your phone while you're helping them. Give them the attention that they need, but also the way you want it back. We have become addicted to technology, and there's great things about technology, great, but it has an addiction component. Social media is really dangerous for comparing ourselves to others and that fear of missing out and feeling worse about our self-esteem. Anderson Cooper, I think, said it the best when it was back when it was Twitter, and he said, every time I get off Twitter, I feel like shit. And I think that's perfect. And my college students will say that majority of the time. If you're on it for a few minutes, check birthdays, just check messages, see what's going on, scroll for like 5 minutes, you're fine. But when people stay on it for a long period of time, it drains you. It's overstimulating, the blue light, it phases your sleep, it phases your mood. So being mindful of it and keeping a time limit for your kids, especially with social media. I mean, I know they're not supposed to go on until they're 13, but that's even young. But there's kids on it much younger than that. And that's just the reality of it. We also have cyberbullying that, again, never existed, where kids can be bullied 24 hours a day. Back in the day, you got bullied at school. When you were home, it was a break. Kids don't even have that anymore. So it's being mindful of technology, but being mindful of your own behavior with it. Technology literally should have a stop. 60 to 90 minutes before bed. I'm not saying TV, but all your other technology. Stop it. The blue light will keep you up. The overstimulation, if they're looking at anything with fear or anxiety, it's going to affect their sleep. Take it out of the room. It never charges in the room, including you as the adult. Out of the room. Dinner time should always be tech free. Dinner time should be about communication. And then I kind of my thing, but I've always mentioned this, is like I make Sunday kind of like my tech free day. Like, I'll carry my phone just in case, my daughter calls an emergency, but I don't spend any time on it. Like that day should just be for fun or family time or whatever you're doing. It's really important to reduce it because it'll take over. It becomes an addiction. And that's where we fear. And kids can stay on it and video games and be on it, and they socialize that way, and they still need in person. In person is still the best. Yes, winter months when we can't, or you have family, friends who live in California and I'm in New York, absolutely. But they need the in person. They need to exercise. They need that teamwork that's in person. So just limiting it and watching your own behaviors with it. Again, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just monitoring it and also monitoring how your kids are affected by it. And then you can really work with it from there.
I love that. I think it's always the constant struggle, right? It's like in theory, like, I know all of the things to do, even on a personal level for me, like my kids are 4 and 6, like I know that there were technology limits in my house when I was 4 and 6, and it was just the television, right? My mom used to always say, your brain's going to rot staring at that TV. I mean, not that stayed with me my whole life, but it stayed with me my whole life. Generational trauma is always fun. But it's always something like in the back of my head. And I'm like, but it's hard. Being a mom in this digital world is hard. I mean, all the balancing and all the balls in the air. And, it's just technology brings its own challenges. And there's so many amazing things with technology. I mean, it's hard. It's one of those conversations that I have over and over and over. And I think on every single one of my podcasts, I've touched on technology at some point, because it's really something that I struggle with personally, especially in my family, and the time limits and all the things. And I have all the parental controls on my son, especially because he is even his teacher told me yesterday at back to school night that he is a 40-year-old man inside a 6-year-old body. So, I mean, I get it. I know all the things. It's just that's really something that I really want to try. I'm like very much so trying to reclaim in my house is just kind of where technology falls on the priority list, because right now it's way too elevated on that list, and we gotta bring it down. But as we wrap up here, Diane, this was such a fun conversation with you. I mean, I think positive psychology is really where we need to be. We really need to focus on the things that make us happy and finding the happiness in everyday moments, right? And that's just that's something that really is heavy in my heart, because it's something that, especially
Yep.
people that have experienced grief in their lives and everything else. I mean, you can't take every day for granted. And that's something that, I've really put into practice. And starting this podcast was a big thing for me to kind of just talk through these things and find those moments of happiness. And I think that this podcast has become such a rewarding thing for me, because it has become kind of my therapy to kind of go through all of these things, because in these moments that we have open and honest conversations, and it's not, these spots where we're just trying to tell people our ways and views of the world. Like, no, that's not what this is. This is two moms that are in different places in their lives talking about things that work and how to make this crazy world work in any form of your life, right? So if you could talk to a mom listening today that feels completely overwhelmed, what's the first step that they can really take towards reclaiming some of that balance for themselves, reclaiming that positive psychology, and really making that small shift in their everyday? Talk to me a little bit about that.
I think just to wrap it up for all moms really is just taking the little pauses. And you could do I'll wrap it up with this. There's a great mindfulness exercise by Dr. John Kabat-Zinn that's called the stop. And it's very simple. Literally, just stop whatever you're doing. So it's the S is stop, T is take a few deep breaths. O is just observe what you're feeling. Do I just need a few more deep breaths? Or did all I need was a little pause and I can go back to what I'm doing? But that's it. And then P is just proceed in that way. Do I keep breathing and I need a little more time, or do I go back to what I was doing? And it's a really simple way. So if you feel yourself getting overwhelmed and stressed, or you just want to put it in your phone as little breaks when the alarm goes off, just do the stop. It's great. Just stop what you're doing, take deep breaths, observe what you're feeling, what's going on emotionally, physically, and then make the choice how you will proceed. And I think that's a great way to
love
wrap
that.
it up
I
with
love
it.
that. Well, Diane, this was wonderful. If listeners want to dive deeper into your work, where should they start? Your books, workshops, coaching, your website? Give our listeners all the deets, and we'll be sure to post everything below the video as well. You'll have links to everything that Diane talks about now.
So website is the best, which is just, DianeLang.org. Very simple. It's just my name. And on there, you can find my social media, you can find, my email, and I think and my books, and that's a great place to start. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I think that we all took something away from this, and if we can all just bring a little bit more happiness into the world, then the world will be a better place. Am I right?
I 100% agree.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Diane. This was wonderful. I really appreciate you. Thanks to all of our listeners out there, and thanks for joining us on Mommy is Thriving. Till next time. See you soon, guys. Bye.